Hi, welcome to the Pinoy RN, a podcast that provides insight into a variety of subjects relevant to Pinoy nurses. Here's your host, Jerome Babate.
Well, I only started po in De La Salle University this January. So mostly my work in De La Salle University as of now is a full-time teaching faculty. And the subjects that I handle there as of now are related to social sciences, specifically one on gender and multiculturalism, and then the other one is science, technology, and society. And I also teach a few graduate courses there, most in the field of health social sciences. Well, generally, I was inspired by our early nursing theorists, like for instance, uh, Madeleine Leininger. Her dissertation work was in anthropology, and I think Hildegard Bepla was in psychology. So I felt like one way to be able to extend the discipline of nursing or any other discipline is to be able to practice interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity. That's I think one of the reasons. And number two, I was most of my work when I used to be a nurse instructor was in community health. So I wanted to take up a degree that had something to do with understanding collective behavior in a more theoretical way. And it was just fortunate that when I was looking for graduate programs that dealt with those kinds of disciplines, De La Salle University had that freshly offered, and they also had a scholarship that was available. So I was able to grab it as well. On a selfish note, there's also a selfish kind of reason for it, because during the time when I was thinking about taking a PhD, I was also thinking about there are a lot of schools in nursing in the Philippines that were dwindling down in terms of enrollment. So I personally wanted to venture into another discipline. So just in case um, there would be unemployment that would eventually happen among nursing educators, my direction would be going to teaching in another discipline if the enrollment would dwindle down in nursing, and then probably go back to nursing again if the employment has increased. But of course, eventually what happened was that now I am coursing more into the health social sciences than into the nursing profession. I think because the Me Too movement is very Western, no? The hashtag Me Too movement. Um, so it exposed a lot of uh, physical, sexual, and the work harassment abuses that has been kept secret by many women for a long period of time. It gave them a platform to speak out. In the Philippines, we had something similar, but not as viral. It's hashtag babae ako. So it had the same motive to be able to provide women a platform that they will be able to share their experiences of being victims of rape culture, being victims of misogyny and patriarchy. And in terms of the workplace, uh, it it definitely kept workplaces in check. It definitely kept them in their toes. It definitely made them review their policies in relation to gender and development. And I think that's the same with healthcare workers as well, because I think one of the issues um, that specifically for nursing, one of the issues that is gender related in nursing is the fetishization of nurses. The female nurse donning a white uniform as a sexual object for 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 males. No, so this culture has invited a lot of predation from abusive men, and kind of normalized that instead of nurses as professional beings, they become targets for sexual abuse. So I think the hashtag Me Too movement has also, because it also exposed some issues on female nurses who were physically and sexually abused by their patients and by their colleagues. And so I think one way always of trying to solve a problem is to expose that problem, to make people come forward and say na these are the problems that these are the problems that are present, and that's I think the first step of being able to systematically address a problem.
Okay.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
Yeah, actually, I've been thinking about that question for some time, because I think when you talk about when you at a sociological perspective, and when you talk about minority, you just don't talk about like numbers. You also talk about the extent of power and agency a certain group of people has with their environment. So in terms of numbers, yes, I would believe that males are a minority in terms of numbers. But sociologically speaking, I probably wouldn't say that they are a minority, because generally we still live in a patriarchal world, and I feel like uh, the, the, sys- the bullying and oppression and problems that males may encounter as nurses might not be as systemic as female nurses would be experiencing within and outside the hospital setup. But given that, no, kasi I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. Para how do I face my answer to this? Because again, it's hard for me to also talk about this because I'm a man. No, I'm shrouded with the privilege of patriarchy. Then, eh. So I feel like a woman would be able to answer these issues better. But but uh, but in terms of males experiencing some sort of probably discrimination, yeah, would be in the form of what do you call this, toxic masculinity, because traditionally males have been gifted, not really gifted, but they have been playing the role of the macho, the strong, the expressionless, the instrumental behaviors. And the reason why we have so many females in nursing is because nursing is a caregiving profession, which is traditionally assigned to females, which is again another way of minoritizing females. You are placing them in vulnerable positions that are paid less. So when a male embraces a female driven profession, usually the discrimination they get is because they are embodying minoritized masculinity, as they would say. No, it's a minoritized masculinity. It's a discriminated masculinity. It doesn't follow the rules of traditional toxic masculinity, and this is the discrimination that they get from society, not within the nursing profession. I believe it's not within the nursing profession, but it's really more in a larger society. Like when a when a male nurse, no, say na I am a nurse, no, and you tell this to someone outside the nursing profession, of course it invites a lot of cultural scripts na, oh, okay, so you're not following the usual definition of a manly professional, something to that extent. So I think that is something that uh, our goal is to be able to be able to fight against the narrative of toxic masculinity, not only in nursing but in other aspects of life as well. And I think one of the positive things that we are seeing, because there's increasing population of males in the nursing profession and in caregiving, right? It normalizes caregiving in males, and therefore, when we normalize caregiving in males, we also distribute the caregiving roles from the women, making them more, increasing the opportunities for other things like economic opportunities. Kasi nga, the males are also parang the males are also taking a share of the plate of caregiving all around the world. I think so. I mean, in a patriarchal world, the males always have an upper hand in in many areas. Because yeah, I think of course I think yes, they have a greater place in nursing and elsewhere because of the privilege that comes with being an XY chromosome holder. uh, I think I don't really have to veer away from the usual issue, no, but the usual issues that we have, especially one that's very palpable right now, is the exploitative practices that institutions have placed against nurses. We recently had this fiasco that the government banned nurses, even those with contracts, to work abroad, to go back abroad, because the nurses were expected to volunteer here in the Philippines to address the COVID-19 situation with a very low pay. PPEs are not assured, and those kinds. So, and this predates back, no, a long way back, no. There are so many things that systematically the government and every other sectors of society has disenfranchised nurses, making being a nurse a not so desirable profession to be in here in the Philippines. And there are many social issues that are related to that, because again, because caregiving, which is attached to being a nurse, is a traditionally feminine trait, and therefore it's not seen as something that should be paid more, that should be given more benefits, that should be given more leeway, um, that should be given more honor in society. Or well, honor lang, pero honor has to have economic and social consequences and rewards as well. So I think I think if uh, if the society, if different aspects of society, more importantly the government, sees nursing as important as other capitalistic professions, such as business and corporations, as important as those who go for sports, as important as entertainment, then probably we would have lesser problems in terms of dealing with health issues like this, the COVID-19 pandemic that we have. So I think that's the biggest issue. There is an increasing respect for nurses as professions, but when you pit them against other professions, they still get the disadvantage, and they still get less benefits, they still get less money. And another issue is, of course, when Filipino nurses they migrate to another country, automatically that is a layer of vulnerability, because if you're an immigrant in a country that um, you are not a part of, then it presents you with so many vulnerabilities. You have lesser cultural and social capital. You could be at risk for vulnerabilities and exploitation as well. So and I think those are some of the like obvious things that are issue, but and that are issues in terms of But in terms of sociology as well, it doesn't look at just you know um, how society looks at professions, but how professions also see each other. Um, Medical sociology also looks at parang how do doctors see nurses, and how this unequal power dynamics between the medical professional and the nurse is replicated in our everyday lives within the hospital, which again is well, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but one of the things that this COVID-19 pandemic exposed is that breaking these silos, breaking that unequal dynamics between the nurse and the doctor has benefits, because there are so many things that RNs and doctors and other allied health professionals could learn from each other, and they could always step down and step up whenever there's a need in order to address the very urgent needs such as this pandemic. So siguro in summary, yun, one, the undervaluing of nurses in the Philippines. Number two, the issues that confronts nurses when they migrate. And number three, the ongoing unequal power dynamics within the health professions themselves.
Well, that's all for today's episode of Pinoy RN. Thanks for listening, and thank you to our guest for joining me today. Join us again next time when we talk about Filipino nurses and nursing. Make sure you subscribe to the Pinoy RN podcast on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Also follow us on Facebook at Pinoy RN Podcast. Special thanks to our event partners, Beta Nu Delta Nursing Society, Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, Nursing for Humanity.